The Japanese live closer to the changing seasons. With no space to grow enough food for all, Japanese cuisine distilled instead the very best from nature and made it beautiful. To truly eat well, they believe, you must open all your senses, become aware of the world around you, and gently enhance it. With nothing stronger than a golden stock. This is Dashi. It is the bedrock of Japanese cuisine. It is not concocted, they believe, but drawn out from the very stuff of nature. And its essential ingredients are gathered from the cold and warm seas and from the humid forests that cover much of Japan. Dashi is a distillation of the natural resources of Japan, the essence of its very nature. Kyoto is where the flavors in every dish are believed to be subtler than everywhere else. For over 1,000 years, the emperor resided in this ancient capital. Produce from the length and breadth of the Japanese archipelago was transported to the imperial court. And here, dashi was drawn into being. Many of Japan's finest restaurants are in Kyoto. Here, the ancient traditions are preserved. And the first ritual of the morning is the drawing of fresh water from the well, so that the preparation of dashi may begin. Hiroyuki Kato is considered among the finest chefs in Japan. Unusually, he does not come from a long family line of chefs, but has mastered his technique from scratch, imbuing his dashi with his own alchemy of flavor. He begins by immersing the most select Konbu kelp in fresh water. Glutamic acid in the kelp is released and acts by stimulating our taste buds so that a fifth, more sophisticated level of taste is invoked, which the Japanese call umami. Umami evokes well-being and delicious nourishment. The master chef keeps a careful eye on his simmering broth and skims off the frothy scum from its surface.
私がいつも思うのは、目で味見をする。味が出てる、あ、旨味が出てるなっていうことは、やはり舌でも分かるけども、それ以上に分かるのは目であるということだと思います。
He aims for a clear, pale golden color without a trace of cloudiness. When he's satisfied with the appearance and the aroma, he must taste. In Chef Kato's particular alchemy, it takes about an hour to achieve the full flavor he's seeking from the simmering konbu. Kombu kelp flourishes in shallow waters in the colder northern seas around Hokkaido. Ice forms in the winter and is drawn by nature's tides in and out of the shore. The ice floes are in perpetual motion back and forth, performing an unexpected cull of a vital natural resource. Kombu grows by absorbing nutrients from the seawater through its long leaf-like blades. The ice floes dislodge the weakest kelp from their mooring on underwater rocks. In this way, only the stronger plants flourish. They feed on the nutrients provided by plankton trapped in the ice and grow full-bodied, and flavorsome. On the wild shores of the northern tip of Japan's archipelago, ferocious sea storms wash precious natural flotsam ashore. In summer, Yori Fujimoto migrates from her winter lodgings here, far from civilization, to make a living from gathering konbu as her ancestors did before her. She's 89 years old.
少ないと流れてこない。なんぼ天気が悪いくてもダメだし、やっぱり風が波がないと寄らないもの。まあいい昆布ではないけど、スルーティーがまあ中にいい昆布もあるから。
It's a tough life close to nature. She lives it alone, in a hut with no electricity or running water. Here she dries the konbu she's gathered, in the company of her two faithful dogs. It's so very wild on these northern shores that she must always be prepared for unexpected visitors. She carries the wisdom of her ancestors. A brown bear, she knows, won't kill you unless it feels threatened. Never would Yori Fujimoto upset the balance of nature in these parts, which she so depends upon. Closer to civilization, fishermen set out to sea on their small boats. They're permitted to harvest konbu kelp for a limit of 3 to 4 hours a day. The Japanese acquired their acute awareness of the scarcity of natural resources many centuries ago and are careful to prevent over-harvesting. Toshikatsu Miura knows where the best konbu grows. This is vital knowledge. The earnings he makes seasonally accounts for half of his annual income. The fishermen scour the deep for mature konbu. Miura can distinguish the prize harvest by judging the thickness and color of the blades growing from its stem-like stipes. Konbu has a 2-year life cycle. This is a baby konbu. It's 5 microns in size and swims using fine hairs called flagella. When it reaches a rock, it anchors itself by putting down roots and starts to grow several centimeters a day. Year-old konbu is too soft for human consumption and trade. It does not keep well even when dried, and the natural flavor remains undeveloped. By limiting harvesting time and restricting it to 2-year-old konbu, the Japanese preserve their vital forests of kelp, and controlled harvesting also prunes the denseness of the seaweed, encouraging sunlight to reach down to the sea floor, fostering growth of the younger algae, and maintaining a diverse ecosystem. urchins graze on Konbu, while these tiny clingfish have suckers that hold fast to the Konbu for protection. So the careful husbanding of these Konbu forests allow the fishermen and these small sea creatures to coexist in a mutually beneficial ecosystem. Like Grandma Yuri, fisherman Miura migrates for the summer work. But he doesn't come alone. This is 10-year-old Cuisine and his brothers. Far from city ways, the whole family contributes in the summer to subsistence. A lot of diverse labor is required to wash, dry, pack, and ship the thick and heavy Konbu. 3 generations lend a hand, despite onerous conditions, created by the gas-filled bladders that keep the Konbu afloat. It's too much for the boys.
匂いが
あ
ああ分かる匂いね
匂いが
片付けてる時なんかくせ
ーなんかね、匂いっていうかずっと、気持ちは確かに
吐き
気
そうだよ
持ち悪い吐きそうにはなる。
The weather is unsettled and can change very suddenly on the shores of Hokkaido. The scenery is radically transformed with each new change. The boy's grandmother can forecast vital conditions by studying her surroundings.
山だねやっぱりガスとかさ黒い雲来たら雨とかさなんとなくそれ昔からあれねだからそこの詐欺のあれも山見るねやっぱしこれ風もそこさ風俺で来たわからいいわとかさ君に来るわとかなんとかそんな感じだね。
On the evening that Grandma judges the mist and damp will hold for a while, the family begins the process of converting the inedible seaweed into food. They take the Konbu that has previously been dried and lay it out on the beach again.
Shohei でねこれ少し自力してるし湿度が多いからなんとかなんでね早くに飛んでね締めに。
The moisture in the night dew dampens the Konbu. The gas-filled bladders crack, releasing their noxious contents, which evaporate. This process for removing the Konbu's putrid ocean smell is part of the wisdom that has been handed down through the generations of these sea foraging people.
いい匂い出てくるやっぱり香りがだからやっぱりそれだけ旨味が出てきてるってことね香りが出てくるってことね。
And there's no hastening the delicate procedure. Dousing with water or rain won't do. Nothing but mist and night dew will unleash the process by gently massaging the Konbu. The partially processed Konbu is then shipped to storage to continue its long maturation process for between 2 and 5 years. Once the ocean smell has truly been eradicated, the Konbu arrives in Kyoto. In one of the famed traditional Japanese restaurants of Gion, the Konbu kelp has been steeped for an hour to draw out its umami. The arcane chemistry of the kitchen has done its work, and now the liquid is rich in glutamic acid.
昆布だけだとやっぱりこのお口の中に入れたらやはりこう旨味がまだ物足りないんですよね。要は頼んないんですよね。だからそこに補すカツオというものが大切な役割になってきます。
Dried bonito is added to the Konbu kelp dashi. Since bonito fish resemble the shape of a sword, the Japanese call them katsuo, meaning victory fish. For centuries, dried bonito has been shaved with a special blade into a box fixed underneath to catch the flakes, imbued with the aroma of sea and sunshine. It's quite literally the hardest foodstuff in the world and is rich in inosinic acid. An essential component of umami.
で2つが掛け合って出会いのものでね合わさって旨味が生まれてイコールお出汁ができると。
Science has shown that when the umami substances connect, the glutamic acid in the plant-based Konbu kelp and the inosinic acid in the dried bonito act upon one another, and their combined flavor is rendered deeper and more complex. Bonito is a migratory fish that spawn and grow near the equator and migrate northwards in the summer through Japanese coastal waters. A large catch is possible, but the fish spoil easily, so few countries fish bonito commercially. But in Japan, 300 years before refrigerated cargo ships, 3 enterprising fishermen invented a method to dry bonito. On the southwestern tip of the island of Kyushu, the town of Makurazaki is famed for this ancient craft. There, the air is always hazy with the smoke used to preserve bonito. The bonito auction begins at 6 o'clock in the morning. There are 50 establishments in Makurazaki that manufacture dried bonito. Fewer and fewer are family concerns. Among the handful of families in the business, Imakire is known as a master in the production of dried bonito. He's one of only 10 artisans left who precariously defy modern economies of scale and make the highest quality dried bonito using the old-fashioned method. For a month, the filleted fish chosen from the finest bonito is carefully smoked until it deepens in color. The smoked bonito is then placed in a humid room where it naturally attracts mold. The mold filaments grow, decomposing the bonito flesh.
やっぱカビですね。いい製造者はいいカビをずっと持ち続けて、いいカビが来たやつを室の中で繁殖させていくと、そこに自然といいカビ菌は住み着くわけですよね。で、住み着いたところでもそれを大事にやっぱし育てていくわけですよね。
The expert craft of drying bonito requires the careful husbanding of mold. It's only on the clearest of days that Imakire will risk moving his precious mold-sheathed bonito into the open air. But it's a critical part of the process.
天日の力で干すことによって、そのカビは一回ギュッと閉じ込められて、その次にまた2番カビ3番カビで取っていくわけですけど、その時に来るカビがまたいいのが来るか来ないかっていうのも、その干すタイミングなんかでも違ってきますね。早すぎてもいけないし、遅すぎても、遅すぎるのが一番良くないですね。いいカビも拗ねちゃうんですよね。悪くなっちゃうんですよね。いいですね。でこう触ると分かると思うんですけど、さらっとでも全然お白いですね。天花粉あんな感じのカビですよ。あ、ちゃんと育ってくれたって感じですね。
The whole procedure of letting the mold take hold and then drying the bonito out in the sun is repeated 4 times or more. This stage in the intricate proceedings is more than 6 months in the making, during which the moisture in the bonito plummets to less than 8%. The flavor is crucially enhanced. Imakire checks the development of the process the way his ancestors learned.
枯れ具合が悪いと低い鈍い音ですね。でもうこれ仕上がってるとこなんですけど、澄んだキンキンというこれもあとまだ1ヶ月ぐらい、最低でも1ヶ月ぐらいあれしないといけないですね。もうちょっとですね。高い澄んだ音がしますよね。もうちょっとでしょ。なんか子供の楽器にしてほしいみたいですね。してほしいぐらいですね。ルビー色のですね、琥珀色の。
The mold breaks down the protein and fat in bonito and converts them into an umami substance. The bonito flesh becomes glassy and polished, resembling a semi-precious gem.
魚じゃないですよね。もうこう魚の味が脱却して違った、もう本当こうなんていうんですか、そんな感じがします。
A fish is taken and filleted, then gently simmered and cured with fine smoke. And finally, with the help of a little mold, it is transformed into dried bonito. And dashi is the subtle alchemical substance that transforms the ordinary into the exquisite.